thank you all for coming to this presidential debate hosted by the UBC and the Center for Student Involvement. My name is Archie Van, I'm the managing editor at the UBC, and we have two of our three presidential candidates here. If you just want to quickly introduce yourselves.
Sure, my name is Matt Parson, I'm the current AMS VP Academic.
Hi, my name is AJ, or Lisa, one of the two, and I have done a lot of things from co-chairing the SLC to running first week.
Great. So I have a whole bunch of questions that I came up with, but if anyone comes up with anything as well near the end of the debate, we'll take questions, and we may also have a thing where Jeremy comes up and asks a few, because why not? So, I'll start off. Let's get right into it. The AMS president has to be a little bit of a jack of all trades because they're the person coordinating all of the other executives and is generally the public face of the AMS. But most presidents also have an area where they're either especially skilled in or especially passionate about. For each of you, what would that area be? So we'll start off with AJ.
Yeah, I think that area for me is student engagement, which it comes off kind of lightly, I think, a lot of the time, but really should be the focus of the president right now. And I think that I have a lot of experience in taking good things and getting more students to pay attention to them and to make them better and to want to work hard to make them better. And I think that that's really should be the focus of the president, is not just saying they want to engage students, but actually going out there and fixing the lack of, I suppose, relevancy that... Oh, I think we have a Ben.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here, do you want to grab a seat over here, Ben? Get out of your microphone. We don't need you. All right. So you want to introduce yourself just briefly to anyone who might not know?
Of course. Hi everyone. I apologize for my absence. I have a bit of food poisoning actually.
Yeah. Norwalk?
I really hope not. So I'll do my best to keep it all in.
If he vomits on stage, everyone needs to run away immediately.
That's right. My name is Ben Capellecci. I'm ready to be your AMS president, and normally I'm in very good health.
Great. So I'll just go over the question that I just asked. It's the first one debate. I just said most AMS presidents, you have to be a little bit of jack of all trades. You're in charge of all of, making sure all the VPs are coordinating their efforts, etc., etc. But most presidents also have somewhere where they're especially passionate about or an area where they're skilled in. So I'm just asking what that area is for you. And we're just finishing off with Elisa. All right, you finished.
I feel like I
you finished. That's right. So, Matt, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I guess if I had to choose one area that would be my specialty, it would be university lobbying or liaising with the university. Of course, through my role as the VP Academic, I've gotten a lot of experience at doing that. I've gained quite a lot of understanding within the nuanced structure of UBC. It is fairly complicated with committees within committees within committees, but more so just understanding how to develop good working relationships with people within the university to best represent the 48,000 students that I have this past year.
Excellent. I think one of the things that I really value is completing projects and getting big things done and having a high ambition and a high goal. When I was VP Academic, we worked on a few big projects. The first one was balancing the AMS budget, which the year before had been a $250,000 deficit. We worked on things with the International Students Initiative, surrounding the AMS referendum that really made us support students and support international activities on campus. In addition to that, we looked at a whole bunch of projects around Gage South, and that kind of culminated in the presentation that we made to the province on what happened with the land use plan. So there's been a lot of big projects, and I think what really excites me is working on these kinds of things and working with the right people to get these things done.
So just a quick question, can everyone hear okay, or would it be better with the PA system? Yeah, that's what I figured. All right. Thank you all for your wonderful, intelligent, and insightful answers. So most AMS presidents are also remembered for enacting either one or two initiatives, because most of your job is the day-to-day kind of grind. So over what one initiative of an AMS president over the past 4 years do you think has been either the most successful or something that you'd like to emulate? I'll start off with Matt.
If it had to be just one, it would probably be the work that Mike Duncan had on the athletic fees. Just because it was such a tangible benefit to students. He utilized the leverage that the AMS had by the transferring of the $1 million that we had, and through the effective university lobbying he was able to lower athletic fees by quite a lot and save countless students a lot of money.
I think this one really falls under sort of the idea of inspiring student culture, but UBC's Got Talent that happened 2 years ago, thanks to Bijan and a whole bunch of other people around campus, really demonstrated to me the number of students that have talent on campus that for the first time got to show that off, and the number of students that are interested in watching their fellow students perform. And that to me really inspired the kind of collaboration the AMS can have with all campus community partners, the UNA, the university, within the AMS itself. And to me that really demonstrated the kind of effort that the AMS has the potential to bring and how it can enhance student lives.
I was going to say the same thing that Matt did, but for slightly different reasons. I think that it was the way that Mike went about accomplishing his goal that really was outstanding, that it wasn't just Mike, it was him and it was his team, and they supported each other and worked collaboratively, as well as the work that outsiders to the AMS that had no executive role put in, like Neil Janssen's work on it. It couldn't have happened without him, as well as he created the dialogue from the start, that it wasn't kept hidden, the projects that he was working on. He put it out there that this is what they was working on. How do you feel about athletic fees? Do you feel you're paying too much? And got input from the students about how he should proceed. So it was a great accomplishment, but it was also how he went about achieving it that is really impressive.
Mm-hmm. So both of those initiatives that we brought up were brought up by the president either during their election or at the beginning of their term. So it was something that they worked on from the beginning. So what part of your platforms do you think would be able to be that one thing that people will remember you for as a successful initiative? Ben, we'll start with you.
I think one of the things I'm most excited about is continuing working with Jeremy, actually, on the provincial lobbying group. I think this is something that has a lot of potential for students, not only now, but students across BC and students of the future. Working closely with Jeremy as he finishes his term as president, and then even after the fact, I think it's going to take well over a year to really establish a firm base. But at the end of the day, it's really going to be a legacy that everyone at the AMS can be proud of, that the AMS acted as a leader in uniting students from around the province to really fight issues where they matter the most at the provincial level, looking at budgets and working with the university and working with other universities across the province to really solidify what we can do as students. And I think that's what I'm most excited about.
AJ?
I don't think I want to pick what that one thing would be yet. I think it depends a lot on who gets elected and what their goals are, that you can't choose what the one big thing is without thinking as a team what will be the most effective thing to do. But I feel like it would be in the realm of changing the opinion of what the AMS is to most students and really bringing them back into the society and making them connect with it. And I don't know what that would look like yet, but I think it's a team decision, not just the president's role to pick what that will be.
So really, if you're looking at things that presidents are remembered for, it's generally when they've done something completely different than any past years. And what I hope to do that's completely different than any other previous presidents is my approach to student engagement. It's always the elephant in the room during election season. There's this apathetic student approach to the AMS. People don't know who we are. How can we deal with this? And traditionally, we've always had the let's go for a top-down approach, the paradigm-shifting social media kind of ideas of follow this stream and we'll be able to really connect with you. Where what I'm hoping to do is have a 1,000 ambassadors project, where the president every day has to go out and connect with your students, your typical UBC student. And I'm hoping through this we have more of a change in thought in how the AMS approaches interacting with their students. So it's quite simple. It's just me walking around having conversations about the AMS, what they think should be changed at UBC, what are you learning, and hopefully that will accumulate to really solidifying within the president, the person who's responsible for driving change within this organization, a good direction. And I guess a legacy of really taking your average students' perspectives in consideration in guiding the organization.
Great. So we've been talking a lot about positive things and good things that the AMS presidents have done, so let's get a little bit negative, because that's always more fun. What do you think has been the least successful or biggest failure of an AMS president over the last 4 years? Start with AJ.
I think that it comes down to the same sort of failure. For example, when trying to coordinate the referendum, the biggest issue was that all that students had heard about the AMS had been negative, and that they don't started conversations about the things that they're doing well, and students don't connect with those things because they have weak communications, and so all they hear is, but I don't want to change the UPass, and they don't understand the full conversation about, well, we've worked to engage in dialogue with TransLink in the province and worked as hard as we could to make it as beneficial to students as possible. And so that has been my biggest concern with the presidents, is they have great ideas, and like right now there's those 2 referendum questions that, yes, they make absolutely a ton of sense, but why has there not been the dialogue first about how students can be a part of this? And so I don't know how to frame it. I don't think I have a particular example, but I feel like all of the last 4 presidents' greatest weaknesses have been not communicating well their great ideas.
Matt?
So the question is, what particular event or project might be the biggest failing? Okay. Well, jumping off of AJ's point, which is a lack of communication, really, I'd have to say it's the quote-unquote UN fail, UN Gate. It was just the nature of how everything was conducted, of projects being conducted and developed with the intention of excluding students and other input from permanent staff or whoever, really, and which goes complete counter to the mandate of the AMS, which is we're here to be doing things for the students, and if you're consciously excluding them because it might not be definitely to the tune of what they're wanting, you're not really fulfilling your duties. So for those reasons, I feel like that might be the biggest failing in recent years.
Ben?
I think every president comes in with the intention to do good for students. I mean, that's why we're all sitting around the table right now, and that's what we're all trying to convince you to do. Where a lot of presidents fail is in that communication, but also in that respect, in the way that a president treats council, for instance. We've seen a few presidents in the past make some really poor decisions with how they treat AMS council, but then as a result, they also ignore a lot of the other student groups and student opinions on campus when it comes to their actions. We saw 2 huge issues erupt in not this past presidency, but the 2 presidencies before that, and that largely had to do with respecting council, but also respecting the student opinion. Council exists to measure student opinion. You elect your counselors at UBC from your faculties to represent you at the AMS. But when the president doesn't work in harmony with those organizations, with those groups, with those people, you see the result of a disparity in student opinion. And I really think, starting very simply at respecting council, a president can really move forward to address those issues of communication and to have the entire AMS working as a voice as opposed to just the president. And I think that's what's really important.
So a little bit of what you guys have been talking about is, some of the communication failings that the AMS has had with students and with council. Obviously, the AMS does do a lot of good work and a lot of positive work every day. How would you go about trying to communicate that more effectively to students so that when there is a scandal or something that goes wrong, it can be weighed against all of the good work that's also done? Start from back.
So if I had to sort of describe a top-down approach that I would like to see implemented, it would really be more of a stratification of our communication. So we have a very a difficult job in communicating because we have 48,000 members, but then we also have such a breadth in what we do. We have the health and dental plan, we have our services, we have our advocacy work, we have all the food services. I mean, the list goes on, and not everyone wants to hear about all the great things that we're doing. So if you are to try and improve communication, it needs to be a bit more of a personalized approach, I'd say. So along the lines of maybe a Groupon approach where there's a mass email out where you are selective of, I would like to hear about the health and dental plan and the changes that are coming up with that. And I'd also like to hear about the deals that are going to be happening at Honor Roll. And then from there on forward, you are informed in those areas, and those are the particular areas that you care about. So if we try and go for more of the generalized approach, which is trying to be everything to everyone, will definitely end up being nothing to anyone. Ben?
I think when we talk about top-down revolutionary stuff, I mean, Groupon has had its benefits and its weaknesses in the last little while, as we've seen with some IPO things going on. I think that communicating to students is one of the biggest issues that the AMS has had. And going forward, I really think that the AMS focusing on reaching student communities that exist already, look the same way that all of us candidates have gone out this past week and addressed you at your councils or your clubs or even in your residences. The AMS needs to be focusing on those kinds of things. I find that presidents seem to do these things for the few weeks that it matters, and then after that you never see from them again. And I think having an institutional perspective, having people that are focusing on reaching out to you actively in your day as a UBC student, not only the presidents, but the executives and even the council, will really improve that communication. It shouldn't be about these 2 weeks where we desperately want to see you. It should be about the entire year, where we want to have an open dialogue about what the AMS is doing, but then also what you're doing and how can we help that.
Yeah, I think that my answers would be somewhat similar to Ben's. And that there's a lot of engaged people on campus, and to engage with the whole group, you just need to engage with some of them so they can see the benefit of your organization and learn what you do, and it will spread throughout them. But even simpler than that, it's having clear, effective posters and websites and taking advantage of the spaces that you have, that you know you have students in. That something as simple as updating the bulletin boards that have had the same information on them since first year, where you know there will be students, and having a website that is up to date, that is easy to follow, that you think through, if students didn't know anything, where would they click first? How can you get them the information they need in under 3 steps? It's not about how you don't need a clever strategy to reach students. You just need to be clear and effective in the message you're putting out there.
So one of the things to jump off from that, different presidents have had different approaches to relations with the media and public relations, and that's one of the central responsibilities of the AMS president. How much leeway would you give your VPs or other people involved in the AMS when it comes to media and public relations? Start off with Ben.
Well, it's a nice question you've asked. 2 years ago, there was quite a few issues about media relations, especially when I was UP academic versus what the then president felt about how the AMS should be communicating. I think that the AMS is a body made up of many people, and while the president does represent the society, there are many opinions, and the opinions need to be cohesive before they can be communicated. And so I think it's much more important to maintain everyone's cohesivity, so there doesn't need to be issues about who gets to speak and who doesn't speak to the media. But I think telling the AMS's story has to do with speaking and talking and communicating with others. And I think that a more open policy in the AMS, one where we do show our cohesivity and we do show the excellent things that we're doing for students, will really drive the AMS forward in that regard. AJ?
I think that it's an important discussion to have, and see how if your vice presidents and your council members feel comfortable speaking to the media, and then setting those guidelines for what should you say and what should you not say from the start. That I think a lot of problems could arise from people not knowing, should I be speaking, and that's really the bigger issue than it's having that conversation with your team and setting appropriate guidelines. It would depend on the situation. It's got to be a situation by situation case, that the president isn't always going to know everything and can direct the VPs, and they need to be in a position that they know what they should and shouldn't be saying.
Matt?
Just to touch on Ben's point, I think it's hugely unrealistic to think that you just can, hope that your exec team is going to be cohesive and therefore your messaging is. The nature of student politics is year to year, you're always going to have people running for different reasons, and it's going to be a whole spectrum of political affiliations, and that's just the nature of the AMS. So to the point of this varying sort of approach to whatever issue that we might be trying to portray or communicate, it just needs to be as open and transparent as possible and really honest, because as soon as the president tries to start muzzling people for the sake of just overpowering his message, then that's where I think we start to get into dangerous territory. It's the job of the president to communicate the message of the AMS, maybe not necessarily absolutely set that message. So as long as the president is willing to hear what his VPs have to say, hear what council has to say, and you actually communicate what their wishes are, I think that they're doing their job correctly. But having said that, you do need to have consistent messaging, because if you do have, from a public's view, a feuding executive, it just does not look good, and it's not beneficial in any way.
So all three of you are generally considered to be good at working with the university and willing to do that, as opposed to some other candidates in elections previous who may have had more antagonistic approaches to the university from the onset. However, are there any issues, or is there a line that could be crossed in which you would, as the AMS president, take an explicit and publicly confrontational stance with the university? Starting with AJ.
Can I think of any right now? Not at the moment, but should they arise, definitely. I think that what's important is building that relationship where you understand what's going on and you can be critical and effective in the way that you are critical. That it's about having strong relationships so that you feel comfortable giving feedback about what can be done better, instead of being critical but not knowing the whole picture. I think that the university, there's a lot of people out there working really hard to do what they think is best and to be critical of them without being respectful of the work that they're doing. That's where you run into issues. So absolutely, I could speak up and be completely on the other side, but never in a way that is disrespectful to the work that these people are doing.
I think one of the major things that a student society should be doing is holding the university accountable. We represent the students, and they are here to serve the students. And if the communities of UBC feel like the university isn't doing their utmost for the students, then we should make it our mission to change that. So as far as being adversarial and confrontational, I always think that that's more of a last resort. Not because I'm necessarily afraid of going into that, but it's not as effective as people may think it is. Having good relations with the university, being respected, getting into the meetings where these decisions are being made, and then swaying their thought process through just rational thought is far more effective than having petitions and signs and pitchforks and what have you, where we're storming the administration. Because yes, that's effective, and we'll get into the papers and onto the radio shows, but is that actually going to have an effect where we're going to get the end result? Maybe not, because then it becomes more people putting up their walls. So if I had to sum up my answer, it would be the fact that, of course, a student society's president should be adversarial to the university, but only when absolutely necessary.
It's an issue of a left and right thing. I mean, there's some people think that being adversarial to the university is the only way that we can really speak and have a student voice, whereas some people think that a partnership and really aligning in every single way with the university is going to help us achieve our ends. I think while the student voice is something that it's the job of the AMS to articulate, it's really student influence that matters at the end, in the sense that we can have a chance to speak, but if what we say is meaningless and what we say doesn't hold any weight, we're not effective. I think Alyssa brought up a really good point when she said the fact that if we have a strong relationship, we're able to move forward on a lot of these issues, and being respectful to the university for what it's trying to do is really important. being confrontational isn't going to make a very respectful environment with the university. And I think that realizing that the AMS and the university are really trying to look out for students' interests at the end of the day is what's really important. But making sure that the student influence, the influence of the AMS in decisions at the university level is what it really should be a priority. How we do that is through discussion. How we do that is through making reasonable arguments. But at the end of the day, it is that influence that we need to be charging for, not necessarily our voice, because we all have the right to speak, but what we say actually make a difference.
So the three of you have agreed on a lot of issues throughout this debate and the previous other debate, and it frankly bores me a little bit.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
I'd like you to choose one plank of one of your opponent's platforms that you think is either the most unrealistic or generally a bad idea. So start off with Matt.
I don't know how I can argue against strengthening the student influence or academic achievement because I frankly don't really know what that means. But if I had to, I guess, take one tangible thing, it would be more of a how far along are we already in the creation of the provincial lobby group. I think that we might not be as early days as Ben claims we are, and to say that we're going to start the conversation is a bit preemptive, overstated, because the conversation's already going on. We have the WTF campaign. They're already doing a lot of advocacy work on student financial aid reform. The different universities across BC have already been brought in, and even this February 14th, they've got a fantastic campaign coming up with sort of a Valentine's theme, like we need to talk type of messaging, because it's the throne speech. So, I mean, to say that the provincial lobby group needs to be created and we're going to be at the forefront of that is maybe not the right way to spin it, just because more or less it's there.
Ben? I'm doing my best to go through both of the candidates' platforms. I mean, I think because we've had so many similarities, it's difficult to find misalignments. However, I think there have been oversights in both candidates' platforms, in the sense that the AMS is about setting visions and values going forward. It's about moving an organization and not necessarily reflecting on the personal leadership of a president, but rather the direction that he or she decides to bring to the society. And I think that focusing on the values of my campaign, looking at academic achievement, which is why we're all here, Matt. Looking at the influencing student culture, and making sure that the AMS is a catalyst for student activity on campus, and really strengthening our influence, which really means making things happen for students. I think that it's those values that are really represented here, and those are the most important things that have been brought forward. Focusing on individual leadership is one thing, but focusing on what you plan on doing is another. AJ?
I will go with Matt's ambassador program, I suppose. I think it's a really great idea, but I think that you could do it a lot more effectively by aiming to, instead of spending the 20 minutes of your day to go have a conversation with one person, take that 20 minutes and go talk to an entire club executive, or talk to an entire peer program's lunchtime meeting where they're planning their executive structure. That the idea behind it is great, but is it the most valuable way to use your time? Perhaps you can reach more groups of people.
Chance for rebuttals, perchance?
Yeah, for this round, I'll allow that. So we'll start with Matt.
Sure.
Go from there.
I love that you brought that up, AJ, just because it's the students that aren't engaged that we need to be engaging. I definitely respect the fact that you've been, a part of all these communities across campus, Res Life, CSI. You've been involved within the AMS, and those groups do need to be reached out with. But I mean, to constantly overlook the student that is, commuting to campus, going through class, and then heading home constantly, I think is a huge disservice. Just because if we want to grow as an organization, and our student influence, then it really needs to be looking not just to those already engaged students, because those people have found their niches, their communities at UBC, and that is what we've all agreed on, is that to be successful at UBC, it's to find that smaller community, and then you can grow from there. And it's the students that might not have already reached that point. So to say it's a waste of time to talk to those people, I find fairly offensive. But anyways, I mean, I guess that's my rebuttal to the ambassador program.
Ben, do you want to rebut for the provincial lobbying group?
Well, I mean, it's good to see that you've been keeping track of what's going on with our provincial lobbying efforts at the AMS, and I think that we are making very good progress thanks to a lot of efforts internally. However, the fact remains we don't have a provincial lobbying group that hasn't been created, and I think that I can safely say that by articulating that this is a priority for me, that as president I plan on bringing this forward, and I think that the AMS has a direct mission in ensuring that a lobby group is created, that the activities that we're investing so much time and energy into now are actually going to evolve into something that remains to be a long-standing and sustainable solution for provincial lobbying, and that's what I have to say.
Is there anything you want to add on any of this, AJ?
Yeah, I don't think that it's in any way saying that you shouldn't talk to those students as well, but I think it's using your assets wisely and using your time wisely and setting goals that are achievable in a year. You can't reconnect with 48,000 students in a year. Why not connect with those that are already engaged on campus but not engaged with the AMS, and set a target that you're going to engage with those students first while also attempting to engage students that aren't involved anywhere, but at least bring back some of your base before you attempt to target everyone, because it's just not an accomplishable goal.
Great. So I'm going to get into a few more specific sort of things now. So CITR is a campus radio station owned by the AMS, operated only by students, and currently has little campus presence, and I don't think I've once heard it in the sub. Do you think there are any ways that the AMS can better support CITR? So I'll start with Ben.
2 years ago, when we decided to run an AMS referendum, we looked at all the groups on campus that were collecting funding, and CITR came up as one of them. So we approached them and we said, how can we better promote you? How can we better promote the radio vision that we have here at UBC? And that's kind of contradictory because radio is auditory, but what we looked at is how do we increase your funding and how do we get some more activities going. And from what I understand right now, CITR is giving out free DJing lessons. It's performing at a lot more venues on campus, including the Pit on Tuesday nights, I think. There's a lot of places that CITR is moving into. But I mean, radio culture is changing quite a bit. We all have some sort of device that plays music nowadays, and it's really important that CITR addresses some of the more active needs on campus, where music is involved, where events are involved. If you need the CITR to play at a club, they will be there. But that kind of falls back into the vision or the mission of the AMS to communicate to students and make sure that they're aware that these resources are available. And I think that that's how we can A, provide more value, but B, give something to students to communicate about. And that's how I think it's going to work.
Let's go with Matt.
Put it simply, I mean, I don't know the CITR's internal structure too well. I don't know what their barriers are to expanding onto campus, but I think it's really the position of the AMS to support all student groups across campus. And I mean, the most effective way to be getting them to expand would just to have sit-downs with them, find out what those barriers are and how the AMS could best support them in any way.
AJ?
Yeah, I think pretty much the same, that finding out what their barriers are and how we can help them better communicate, but also hand in hand looking at their marketing procedures and if they are reaching out and figuring out whether the problem is, are they just not reaching out to people that could be using their resources, or is there actually something fundamental that students don't want to get involved with them? So I think there's a bigger question behind that.
So housing is always a big issue at universities, and specifically in Vancouver, of course. But that is mostly dictated by the university. The AMS obviously doesn't run any housing of its own. But it is something that gets talked about a lot during council and by executives. What do you think the AMS can realistically do to help on the affordability of housing? And we'll start with Matt.
Fantastic question. I think we have a very great chance right now with the Housing Action Plan currently being undertaken by the Board of Governors, which is looking into what are the ways and models that we can offer housing to faculty, staff, and students at a more affordable rate. Currently, the university has committed themselves to be able to house 50% of full-time students on campus. And I think that is a fantastic commitment to be making, just because it's such a crucial part of someone's experience, the university experience, to live on campus, just because then you are able to go to those club events, you are able to stay, maybe at the pit on Wednesday nights and not have to worry about busing home and catching the last bus. But with that 50% commitment, with this huge amount of housing stock coming onto campus, the question is, what type of housing are they going to be bringing on here? So to the point of what can the AMS actually do to make substantial change on the affordability of housing at UBC? And I think that it's just through good research and good advocacy to influence that process, the HAP, the Housing Action Plan. There's a lot of work right now looking into comparable universities with comparable housing markets and showing that UBC isn't really up to, they're doing a decent job, but there is a lot of other universities that are doing better than that. It's looking into the internal financing model that UBC has and seeing that the financing rate might not be market, and that translates into huge amounts of money being transferred from the housing department, the ancillary, back to the university. So there's areas that are suspicious, and it's just a matter of influencing the people that are going to be putting forward this report to the board, which will ultimately adopt it or not, to include that in their proposal.
AJ?
I think that Matt made a lot of good points about housing on campus, and that having a strong voice in those conversations is absolutely the best thing that we can do, but there's a larger issue that it's not just student housing, it's housing in Vancouver is the second least affordable in the world. So how do you tackle such a big problem? How do you tackle such a big problem? How does Vancouver tackle such a problem? And then it comes to if we can't tackle the cost of housing, how can we help with the financial hardships that come along with that? And so that's the second part of the conversation, is if we can't have a large impact on the cost of housing, how can we help to lobby the province to support more people that can't afford housing while they're going to school? How can we decrease other financial hardships that they have at the same time? How can we support through our food bank better when students run out of money for food because it's all going to their rent and their books? So I think that thinking holistically about not just housing, but the cost of living is, we would do best to think about.
Ben?
So the Housing Action Plan is actually quite important to increasing the amount of livable space here on campus. You can see down the road here at Ponderosa, they're building the Ponderosa Hub, which from last I remember is about 1,000 new beds for students. One of the biggest issues that the university has right now in building new housing for students really is that it doesn't have the access to capital in order to pay for these things. One of the big ties for that, of course, is the endowment, and that the university is now relating all campus development that's private to housing here on campus, which is excellent in terms of giving us funding. But where the cap really exists right now is in that the university can't borrow money beyond a certain limit set by the province, because the university is set on the province's books. And so if the university was able to achieve a separation from these books, largely with the help of the AMS in a part, because we can represent the university's interests in that way, it would be able to build this housing a lot faster and make it a lot more accommodatable here on campus for students that want to live here. And that would reduce a lot of headaches from what I understand.
We just have one last question. What sort of president will students get if they vote you into office as AMS president? What did I go with before? I can't. Yeah. So Ben.
Okay. Well, make the easy question first, I guess. What I want to focus on, I want the AMS to move forward and UBC students to really reflect on is the direction that the society and this university is going. When I was VP academic, it was nothing unfamiliar for me to stay to the office till 1 or 2 in the morning, to get there bright and early, to go to 6 hours of meetings a day, to be completely committed to my existence as VP academic. And I think as a person, I can promise you that as a president. But what I really want to focus on is the vision for this university, what we can all do together to really make this place better, and how the AMS can perform one of the best and the most key roles in developing that. Strengthening student influence, cultivating academic achievement, and really inspiring campus culture is really what I'm focusing on, and I really think that the UBC can focus on this as well.
Cool. If I had to say what type of president, it's kind of a weird question, because I mean, the role of the president is quite diverse, but if I had to distill it down to more personality traits than anything, I'd say that I would relate to, you know, a lot of the students at UBC. This whole student politics side of things is still somewhat foreign to me. I came out of left field last year when I ran for VP Academic. I really just got involved because I saw the potential to really make a huge difference to student life. I got engaged with the Greek system. I fell in love with all the leadership opportunities, the social side of things, and I wanted to take it to the next level. So I decided to throw my name in the hat for an executive position, and against all odds, I got elected in, and haven't looked back since. I've absolutely loved everything about making UBC a better place. And if I had to say what type of president would I be, I'd say that I'm the type of president that doesn't find it strange to walk around the campus and talk to your average student and really take in consideration what they would like to see their AMS to be. Because I think that they are the ones that should be setting the vision for the AMS, because we're the ones that are supposed to be representing them. So if to put it in like an action, I want to be that president that anyone would feel comfortable walking upstairs to 238 and coming to my office and having a conversation with me.
AJ?
I think to sum it up, I would be someone that is insanely passionate about fixing something that is good and making it something that is great. That I care a lot about this society. I know how to lead a team, I know how to manage a great team, and I think that that's what I can build. And then the work that we could accomplish through that, you could set goals that would be sky high and we could reach them because we would know how to do it effectively and by working together collaboratively. So I guess what sort of president that makes me is one that has a lot of faith and respect and trust in her team and her constituents, that together we can build something great.
All right, I just want to thank you guys for all coming, and also everyone for showing up. I'm actually surprised by the number of people here. Oh, that's adorable. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Woo! All right, you can go vomit now.